When we originally put this series together, the USC College of Letters of Arts and Sciences and the LA Times, we put together a series of 6 statewide polls, and we essentially divided the series in half. We wanted to spend the first 3 polls talking about the pre-primary and then the primary campaigns. Then we'll take a break over the summer and we'll come back in the fall and we'll focus on the general election matchups, not just for governor, not just for Senate, not just for California ballot initiatives, but the issues and the policy challenges that are going to shape those elections.
In all of our surveys, we're surveying 1,500 California voters. That's a pretty large number. It's much bigger than most surveys do, so it gives you the ability to look at particular subgroups of the electorate and to analyze those groups more effectively than if you have a smaller sample.
But given the advances in polling technology, a poll of this size, much larger than most of the other statewide polls, gives us a much more precise look and a much more confident look into what California voters are thinking.
The poll is set up so that we can look separately at Republican primary voters, look at where they're going, and also look at the potential general election voters. And it also allows us to look at the people who seem most likely to vote in the primary election.
And the one thing that struck me at the beginning of the first poll, and still strikes me more than anything else now, is how unhappy California voters are. We asked people if California was on the right track or the wrong track. 7% of Californians said that the state was heading in the right direction. And what's interesting to watch as the campaign develops is that none of the candidates have really been able to convince voters that they'd be able to make significant change. The one politician who we poll on every single survey who seems to be able to separate himself from that voter anger is Barack Obama. The next governor of California, whether it's Whitman or Poizner or Brown, in all likelihood does not take office with that same ability to raise voter spirits. My guess is for the next governor of California to get that kind of reaction from the voters that Barack Obama is receiving, they're going to have to see an economic turnaround first, and then they're going to reward the politicians. But they're not going to invest a lot of hope in California's next generation of elected officials until they start seeing that change.
Well, I think that the biggest shifts that we're seeing when you compare the March survey with the current survey, we've had a roller coaster on the Republican primary for governor where Meg Whitman was up and then down, and now she's back up again. But she's clearly suffered some damage along the way, and Jerry Brown now is ahead in the potential November matchups. He was behind in March. And we also see on the Republican Senate campaign that Carly Fiorina, who was behind Tom Campbell in March, is ahead now and facing a tough race against Barbara Boxer, who remains vulnerable but still ahead of Fiorina in hypothetical November matchup.
All spring long we've had contested primaries in one party, but not in the other. So to a large extent you have half or more of the electorate that's only vaguely interested because their party's nominations are already set. In the general election, the stakes are higher. Everybody has a place in the process. And what we'll be able to get out of this poll is a sense not just of who people prefer for elective office, but why they make those decisions. So for me, as the general election campaign goes into the home stretch, as Brown and Boxer and their Republican opponents really begin to hone in on the voters, to me that's when this poll gets really, really exciting. Because as voters start to pay closer attention, they become better informed. When they become better informed, they become better engaged. And what that means is the USC College of Letters of Arts and Sciences LA Times poll becomes even more valuable, not just as an instrument of what voters are thinking, but what types of appeals, what types of issues, what types of challenges might motivate them